All right, let's take some time now to look at some of the basics when it comes to improvising. Today, we're going to use the example that's in the key of G Dorian. So, first things first, we know we're in the key of G Dorian, so we need to find out what other scales we can play besides G Dorian. Of course, we can play Dorian from the 3rd fret on the low E, which is G, so you play the G Dorian scale, and it's going to work perfect. But what else can we play? There's 6 other modes that are available. First thing you want to look at is, okay, if I'm in G Dorian, what is my major, what's my minor? So the best way to do this is you can go a whole step down from your Dorian, and that will give you your major, or you got to think, okay, Dorian is the 2nd mode, so if I'm playing G Dorian, then you would want to think G is the 2nd degree of what key? In this case, G is the 2nd degree of F. So F major and G Dorian are basically essentially the same notes. All right, now we know we can play F major or F Ionian, G Dorian. What else can we play? We can use our relative major minor concepts to figure out now what minor scale we can play. So we put our pinky on F now, which is the any F, but I'm going to choose the 13th fret on the low E. And if you notice, my first finger lands on the 10th fret, which is D. So I know I can play D minor or D Aeolian. So now I know I can play F major, D minor, or G Dorian. From there, keep connecting the dots. You know now that you're in the key of, even though we're in the key of G Dorian, we can figure out, okay, the major is F major, and the key signature for that has 1 flat. So that's one of the ones you have to memorize. So you can kind of piece together everything else now. That would be F major, G Dorian, A Phrygian, right? Because A is the 3rd, F, G, A, and Phrygian is the 3rd mode. B flat is the 4th degree, and the 4th mode is Lydian, so you could play B flat Lydian. Then we could play C Mixolydian, because C is the 5th degree of F, and Mixolydian is the 5th mode. We already said we could do D Aeolian or D natural minor, which just from counting up, you'll notice that you checking your work, that's the right scale. And then we can play E Locrian and back to F major. So that's how you do it. If it's major or minor, and you know that off the bat, then you can figure out the key signature and plug away all the other modes with the different degrees. So remember, order of modes, you have Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Each one of those will match up with the degree of the scale. So you want to line them up with the major scale, not a minor scale, not a Dorian scale or anything else. That's why in this example I'm saying we're playing in Dorian, but we need to define the major first so we can find all the other modes. If you're in a minor, then and I'm telling you, okay, now we're in G minor, you would want to find the relative major by putting your first finger on that minor note. Your pinky lands on the major, and then you can figure out the key signature and, of course, plug away all the different modes that are in that key. So before we start jamming and talking about some ideas and tools that you can use to improvise in this G Dorian backing track, let's use that concept one more time in a different key and see if we can figure out all the available modes. Let's do the key of C, just to keep it simple, right? So the key of C has no sharps or flats. So C major, C is our 1, major is the 1st mode, so you have C major. You would play that Ionian shape from C, right? And now we go to the 2nd degree. The 2nd degree is D, the 2nd mode is Dorian, so you could play D Dorian. 3rd mode is Phrygian, 3rd degree is E, C, D, E, so you could play E Phrygian. F Lydian, 4th degree, 4th mode. G Mixolydian. A Aeolian or natural minor, of course, same thing. Those are the 6th degree and the 6th mode. Then you have B Locrian and back to C major. So therefore, all the modes always will overlap in the same way. It's just a matter of where you're starting on the neck. So back to our example, what we're going to do is I'm going to cue up this backing track, which is in G Dorian, and we're going to play just real slow, doing quarter notes over top of that backing track, just to hear the different sounds and how they react with the chords. And then from there, we'll try some of the other modes and see how they react. Then we'll do a couple short little techniques and try to improvise and make a little solo. So let's cue up that backing track and get jamming. All right, so first things first, let's warm up and get going with that G Dorian scale over this backing track to see how it sounds, how each note reacts with the chords that are going on behind us. All right, we'll do just quarter notes at first here. Always alternate pick. Here we go. Back down. Okay, now all those notes work. Some may sound better than others, especially depending on what chords we got going behind us, but they all will work. Let's do that one more time. Ready? 1, 2, 1, 2. Ready? Here we go. Alright, cool, so it sounds good. Now let's try one of the other scales and see how that sounds over the same chord progression. Now we figured them all out. Let's do the natural minor. So let's do D minor. Remember we figured out G was the second degree of F, and therefore we lined all the modes up and we found out that we could play D minor or D Aeolian, right? So here we go, from the 10th fret, low E. Go. Sounds good. Remember, in any of the minor modes, you can always play the pentatonic scale and then add in the extra notes that are in the specific mode to give it a little more color or flavor. Last one I want to run through a scale of is major. We're going to do it from F, of course, so let's do it from the 13th fret on the low E. 1, 2, ready, here we go. Alright, so when beginning to improvise, I would say at first just stick to one mode. Play in it, hear the different, like I said, how the notes are reacting over the chords, and then get a couple riffs and a motif going, like this. And then build off of it. Simple stuff. Alright. You can always scat your solo too, which means you're trying to fit your fingers to do exactly what your voice does. Right? Sounds super silly, but gives you a great idea on phrasing, because I have to take a breath and I have to swallow, so I'm not just going to play like noodle, 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 sounds like a scale, right? It becomes more of a solo. So whether you're trying to be a great soloist, improviser or not, maybe this is a great way to come up with some melodies. All right, let's move on to a different scale. Let's try the D minor scale here, right? So we'll come up with a little motif. I'm improvising just as much as you. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, here we go. Also take space between your phrases. let it breathe. Right? Maybe play the same thing twice. Oops. Now I shift it up into the F major. So really, I just kind of played, nothing special by any means, but what I was doing is trying to keep things simple, playing within a scale, trying it in a different scale, trying it in a different scale, maybe connecting those two scales. Really what it comes down to is phrasing, right, and timing. So that's why in the beginning, what you want to do is kind of just run through the scale in time over the chord progression and try it in a couple different tempos. So maybe one time play it as quarter notes, one time play it as eighth notes, 16th notes if you can. And when you're playing all these different modes within the same key, remember, you're playing all the same notes. Whether you're playing G Dorian or D Aeolian or F Ionian, all within that example, they're all the same notes. You're just starting and ending from a different place. So I'm going to play that backing track one more time and run through those scales in a couple different rhythms just so you feel comfortable with how to phrase, and then I'll send you the backing track and you can take time and improvise yourself over top of that, trying different techniques. Remember, sliding into notes is cool, bending notes is cool, holding notes is important because it gives things more contrast between just note, 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 note. You can also take space. Space is super important for phrasing and also just to let the song breathe. So those are just a few things. Like I said, try scatting. You can also run some arpeggios if you know what the chord is. You could play in thirds, right? Every other note up a scale and only play part of the scale. You can tremolo pick. And you can also hang on just one or two notes and just mess with the rhythm. Playing the same phrase twice in a row and then maybe slightly altering it is also a great way to hook your listener. So all good things, easier said than done, but just takes a lot of practice and it's fun. It's a good way to warm up, throw on a backing track, figure out the key, the modes, and start jamming a solo over top. So let me cue that backing track up one more time and we'll run a couple of those scales. All right, so let's run through all the scales available within this backing track, starting with G Dorian because it's in G Dorian, and I'll do them nice and slow as quarter notes, and then maybe I'll just do G Dorian again and D Aeolian as eighth notes. Here we go, ready? Back down. What I'm doing is I'm finding the pulse, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm playing a note on each beat here. Bum, 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 right in that timing. Okay, now A Dorian, or I'm sorry, A Phrygian. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, here we go. Sounds pretty good. Like I said, you're starting from a different note each time, but you're playing the exact same notes. Let's try C Mixolydian. Ready? 1, 1, 2, ready, here we go. Nice, so you find the pocket. Let's do one more. We'll do D Ionian, or D Aeolian, D natural minor. 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, ready, here we go. Excellent. All right, so that's helping you to find the pulse and get where to start. Remember, you don't have to come up with a brilliant solo right off the bat. You can just play quarter notes with random notes within a particular scale. For example, I'll just play straight quarter notes, messing around within D, Aeolian. With a little bit of space. But it's nothing special, but you could hum that back to me, right? Now I just add on to that. Now it sped me up into F Ionian, giving it space. Okay, so just connecting the different modes, trying phrases, adding notes, and modifying your motif each time, and before you know it, you'll make up a great solo.